Welcome to Death Stranding, a game by Kojima Productions, which is also developed by Kojima Productions, and simultaneously a Hideo Kojima game, all surrounded around my main boy, Norman Reedus. And in case I didn't mention, it was also written by Hideo Kojima, and a few others, but who could remember? Now, this game is one of those I have never fully indulged in. I've always seen mixed opinions, which were mainly online, but I have several friends who vouched for this game like crazy, so following the acclaim of the sequel, I decided it was time to finally go all the way through this thing. Now, we follow our main protagonist, Sam Porter Bridges, a porter who is trying to survive in this post-apocalyptic hellscape after an earth-shattering event called the Death Stranding. Now, I'm editing this video after not having beaten the game, so correct me if I'm wrong, but the way they describe the Death Stranding is like an apocalyptic explosion. Much like the Big Bang, but instead of creating life, destroyed most of it, and left the remains of humanity in a constant battle for survival. Following the Death Stranding, the Earth was introduced to BTs, or beached things. These are invisible entities comprised of souls of people who had passed away, but were never sent to heaven or hell. Instead, the beach is like a middle ground between heaven and hell, an intermediate plane of existence, not too much unlike purgatory. To my understanding, when a person dies, their soul travels to the beach, and if the shell of their body is still intact, then the soul will eventually travel back to it and become a BT. So, typical protocol when someone dies is to burn their body in order to prevent this. Pretty gruesome, but if a dead body undergoes necrosis, as they call it, and becomes a BT, they cause an explosion massive enough to make a crater in the earth, which would kill anybody in its wake. So far, the ideology of this story is to connect the different cities onto a similar network using something called the Cupid, so that we can all share information and rebuild America back to the country it was before the Stranding. So far, the vibe of this game has been completely different than anything I'm accustomed to, and I wanted to share my experience as a first-time player. So, sit back, grab some chips, do whatever, just make sure you enjoy my first ever experience in Death Stranding. So, we start out dealing with the rain, which in the world of Death Stranding is called timefall, because it literally makes time fall. The rain ages anything it touches so rapidly that a hair could turn gray, a piece of metal could rust, etc. And during our drive to escape it, this dumb bitch, this respectable lady, just doing her own thing in the middle of nowhere, and we take a dive trying to avoid her. Turns out her name is Fragile. And she works for a competitor company to Bridges. After hiding from the timefall together, a BT shows up, and we have to be really quiet for it to not sense us. Now, the main allure for BTs are sound, so if you're dead silent, they could potentially go right past you without noticing a thing. Which leads us to the next topic of the game, dooms. A person with dooms can sense BTs, and it's almost a supernatural phenomenon. The degree of dooms a person can have can vary, such as being able to see them completely or only sense them a little bit, such as Sam does. So Fragile and I wait for the BT to wander off before I start my merry little trek towards Port Knot City, where I'm welcomed with a beautiful soundtrack, a gorgeous landscape, and a literal hell that is walking across a shallow stream. And then I found a bigger stream. Eventually, I did get used to the traversal, and I was pretty okay with keeping myself upright. Keeping myself upright, and then I learned that gathering lost cargo also helps for extra delivery bonuses. Finally, I made my way into central Knot City, and made my way to the only viable place to go in any of these cities, the distribution center.
What took you so long?
After stepping out, Igor of Corpse Disposal introduced himself like a gentleman and requested help bringing a body to an incinerator. Before necrosis, and I happily obliged. So we went on our way. Kojima reminded me that he created the game, and we realized the corpse was about to undergo necrosis before we could ever reach the incinerator.
How much further to the incinerator? This guy's about to pop.
Shit. We're up to cut to the BTs. The engine stalled.
Those assholes got us right where they want us. Get us out of here.
This BB must be busted or something.
Now, you may be wondering, BB? What's a BB? That would be a bridge baby, which, to my calculations, is a massive facet of this game's story. Basically, babies are taken out of the womb of a mother that they intentionally kill early, also known as still mothers, and placed in pods that are supposed to symbolize a mother's womb.
Don't worry.
Which is the pod on his chest. Apparently, babies taken from a still mother before they're ripe have a strong connection to the beach. So by taking these youngins and putting them into pods that resemble a womb, they're able to detect BTs, and thus, you have that machine that spins and points towards a BT's location. Crazy, wicked, weird, all of the above, yeah, I know. The BTs cut the power to our vehicle, and we found ourselves surrounded by the BTs. Nowhere to go, picking us off one by one, until eventually, we got to meet the main antagonist of the game. Now, I wanted to let that cutscene play, because that is one of the coolest cutscenes in the game to me. But keep in mind, I am only on chapter 4 at the moment of editing this, but that was badass, right? Homeboy was like, shit, I dropped my gun, but I will be damned if I cause a crater. And he started stabbing himself. Absolutely insane. Love it. I mean, like, a true hero. So I end up waking up on the beach, because I did die in that explosion. However, I am something called a repatriate, which means when I die and end up on the beach, as mentioned earlier, I'm able to draw my soul back to my body as myself instead of reincarnating as a BT.
Once there was an explosion. A bang which gave rise to life as we know it. And then came the next explosion. An explosion that will be our last. Tender dust, sweet